Yeah.
We will get started in a second. I know a lot of people are going to be watching the replay, so we'll give
Yeah.
we'll give everybody like a quick
3
minute
minutes.
to jump in here since it is 7:02. We've got so
Yay.
much great stuff to add in today. But yeah, if anybody misses it, I'm gonna email out the replay tomorrow, plus the recap for me, Marissa, yada yada yada. It's gonna be great. I'll go over really quickly as people are kind of floating in here who I am and who Marissa is, and then I'm gonna give her the floor. If you guys have questions, so I would say ask everybody to stay muted, and if that's possible, and then ask your questions in the chat box, and we'll definitely have time at the end to
Q&A.
yes, exactly.
So, and I was going to say, also double check y'all, where it says to, just make sure it says everyone. So you're not sending it to just like me or just Dara, right?
Good call.
Sometimes it gets messed up.
And I'm going to post, hold on. I'm going to post my email as well as Marissa's in the chat box. So you guys, just to start off, Marissa, what's your best email address?
I'll type it in. How about I just do that?
Fabulous.
I'll type it in. Here's my email. Oops, I'm on caps lock. Sorry. Let's try that again.
I've got my nutritious shake here, just ready.
Yeah. Hello at actionfitnessandcoaching.com. That's an easy peasy way to get there.
Great.
You can also find me on Instagram. I'll do that. Well, y'all probably already are all on Instagram, so I'm sure you saw us tagging and posting each other's stuff.
Are you in there? Okay, cool. Okay, I'm gonna go over really quickly who I am and who Marissa is, and then let's just get this party started because we got a hell of information here. Okay, my name, for the people who don't know me, my name is Dara. I'm super excited to host this event tonight with Marissa. I'm the owner of Darasportspt PT. Physical therapy, that's kind of my main jam. I work with a lot of cyclists and runners and athletes in physical therapy. And then as well do some strength coaching and online programming. So that's me in a nutshell. I'm also getting into a little bit of health coaching. And so I definitely have a ton of interest in this nutrition for athletes. It's a big part of, I think, a lot of the issues, but I think that's a huge concern for a lot of people, is kind of melding in your athletic pursuits, your busy lives, and then eating healthy, getting enough in, understanding it all. There's so much information out there. It's crazy. It's overwhelming. I get overwhelmed myself. I think just to briefly, before I give Marissa the floor, one of the main things I just wanted to kind of highlight for tonight is this is just a starting point, right? So neither of us are here to tell you there's one way to do this. You have to do this, you have to do that. There is no one correct answer for what's going to be best food-wise for you or for me. We're all built differently, and we all need different things. And I think the beauty of this, and why I'm super excited, is that the way Marissa works with her athletes and the way that I work with mine is probably different in certain ways. And that's awesome. There are so many ways to focus on your nutrition and be healthy and have different ways of eating, whether it's plant-based, whether it's keto, whether it's this, whether it's that. So really, we're just here to give you kind of like some basic education, because I think at the end of the day, my goal, and I think Marissa's goal, is really the more education that you have to empower yourselves, the better off you'll be in just understanding, food is fuel. Like, food is what drives us, what gets us stronger on the bike, running. Food is amazing. Food is tasty. My whole thing, I'm just going to go off on a tangent really quickly. Like, we need to like destigmatize like diets, food, weight loss. Like, that is so much garbage, especially for cyclists. Like, we don't need to be skinny to be strong and fast. Like, food is amazing. Food is your fuel. Like, I love food. I could talk about it all day. It's great. You want to eat a donut? Great. You want to eat a quinoa bowl? Great. We're going to talk about all that stuff. Like, I just want people to just kind of get out of their head like there's this like negativity associated with it.
And I think, like, hopping on that, it's a lot of the Western culture, like strong, skinny, wafy has been the thing. And I really, like, more and more in the last year, I've really just pointed to like kind of patriarchal culture has like embedded deep in our brains. So I hope everybody here comes with like that action oriented mindset of like you're just saying, food is important. And one of the biggest challenges I see is the challenge of low energy availability. So I have some stats on that a little bit later, but
Cool.
it's so important.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to give you the floor in a second. I just wanted to kind of be like, food is good. Let's make food great again. Like, I love food. Can we just like be happy about food? Can we not, like, it's not punishment, you know, like if we can just kind of get it past that whole like weird space that we've been in for such a long time. And just understand the basics of using it as a tool, for not only enhancing our performance, but also like sustenance. Like, it should be tasty. It should be enjoyable. Like, I just want to make it fun. Like, let's just have fun. Like, let's eat healthy stuff that just tastes good. Like, that's kind of like, let's just do that. Can we just do that? Like, can we just not make it like a negative thing? So I have a bunch of things that I'll nerd out on and show you guys. And I have some like ideas of like tasty, healthy things that I'll point out, and I'll email all this stuff to you. So you don't need to remember any of this stuff, but I'm going to give you the floor. Go for it. Teach us.
Well, okay. So thanks y'all. And hey, do not be afraid to write in the chat. So right here, right now, if anyone has a specific topic they want to make sure and see covered, go ahead and drop it in the chat right now so I can just make sure that I double check and get that question. But I'm going to share my screen. So don't be shy in the chat. And in fact, while we're doing this, I'll be asking you some questions, and I'm going to pull up the chat. Hopefully I can see it. So I am screen sharing. Can you all see the screen? Tell me in the chat.
Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah. All right. So I'm trying to keep my chat up. Can you see my chat? It doesn't move. All right, I'm just going to do this. And awesome. So what I have got, welcome. Nutrition for the Athlete. And thank you so much, everybody, for being here. I really appreciate seeing all of your faces. This is super great. And so nice to put a face to a name. I see your name on Facebook all the time. So I'm Marissa, and I'll tell you about myself in a moment, but I own Action Fitness and Coaching, LLC. I'm based in El Cerrito, California, and I'm here to talk about a problem. So the problem is, as Dara kind of touched earlier, but the problem with nutrition in athletes is low energy availability versus what is positive energy availability. So the problem that I talk to people about nearly every day is this, and I want you to, again, get in the chat, and I want you to let me know if any of this sounds familiar to you. So I wake up exhausted. I get to my workout, but I can't finish it. I got in the middle of my workout, but I couldn't go any faster or hit my target training zones. I was in a race and I got dropped. Let's see, what's a couple others? The very popular one though is I just have no mojo. Like normally I'll get out on a ride and keep up with the dudes, and today I just have no mojo.
How about if you like are bonking?
That's different. That'll be different.
Okay.
But this is more to do with you get out on a ride and you just have no energy, that dead feeling in your legs. So go ahead, not everybody at once. Go ahead and tell me in the chat. Have you felt like that? Have you felt like that? Go ahead. I'll wait. Oh yeah. Probably because, yeah. Oh, this was going fast. Let's see it really fast. So, oh, come on, computer. Yes, no, definitely. Okay, yes. After a long ride, usually I just eat whatever I want, but I heard recently if you eat a bunch of carbs after exercise, your body just turns it into fat. Is there any truth to that? That's
no.
A good question. Yeah,
no.
I would say no.
That is not true.
Your body needs carbohydrates to make muscle. So you need to, yes, of course, you've all felt that. So y'all are familiar with what I'm talking about, the flat feeling or the dead feeling. So the problem is, what is low energy availability? So y'all, I have a startling statistic, but 46% of master's age women who are involved in endurance athletics train and live in a low energy available state. So that means that the amount of exercise that they do, plus their life processes, the energy required for that, they don't eat enough to cover all of those basics. So I'll say it again. So it takes energy to just exist. That's called your basal metabolic rate. That's literally you laying on the couch, not even lifting your remote. It's just digesting food, cell metabolism. And for most people, that's a measurable thing that we can show you where to do that online. But there's an algorithm. You can even go to like DexaFit and get it specifically made for you. But it is called your basal metabolic rate. And then you add things like walking to work, right? Then you add things like going to your workout where you lift weights, and then you get on the bike and do a bike ride. All of a sudden, you've got all these extra energy demands, and you're not necessarily increasing the energy that you're taking on board. In this world, energy is food. All right. So then this is the feedback loop we get stuck in. And this is men and women team. This is not just a women's problem, which it had been kind of defined in the past, but this is everybody. So what happens then is you get on your bike and you can't hit your targets. And what do you immediately think? I'm going to tell you. You think, I'm too fat. I shouldn't have eaten that thing. I need to lose weight so I can go faster. That's literally what everybody thinks. Am I right? Have you caught yourself thinking that? It's okay. Nod yourself. Yes. So the reality is that's not true, right? But I would say, where's that evidence? The reality was you didn't take enough energy on to sustain your life plus your energy output, AKA your bike ride. So what I want you to get around is stop thinking about calories in, calories out. It's been proven that's outdated. We're not going to even talk about that. I want you to think about energy as food. Okay. Now, later today, I will talk about calories because there is a specific like moment where you do want to pay attention to that. But for the most part, we're talking energy. So for men and women to have a great positive training adaptation, I want you to consider having a positive energy state at all times. That means you have enough energy in your body to sustain your life processes, to go to lift weights at the gym, to get on your bike and ride hard, to then go home and make dinner, and then sleep. Okay. So all of that is going to require energy. And so again, most people devolve into cut calories. And especially for women, as soon as you start cutting calories, even like 30%, it starts to decrease your ability to sustain your workouts because you're essentially tipping what is this important protein called kisspeptin, and you're tipping that into the conservation level. Okay. So, and that's a specific sex difference between men and women. As you cut calories, you're actually going to start conserving more of those calories that you're taking on. So I have women coming to me saying, I'm only eating 1,200 calories. I'm doing all this working out and I'm still gaining weight. And so we now know it's because they're living in a low energy state and their body is holding on to every single calorie that they eat because they are literally starving. Okay. So I just want you to know the difference between low energy availability and recognize it's generally that feeling of dead. I can't hit my training zones. I can't sleep well. And your hunger hormones might be very off. So meaning you may not feel hungry at the normal times. And it's, I would expect somebody low energy to be like ravenous all the time, but the opposite has actually been found to be true. So I want you to consider focusing only on being a positive energy availability. So we're going to talk about the solution specifically around your training. And I'm talking about weightlifting, maybe in the gym, but more so about riding. Okay. So the solution is we focus on nutrition. Now, I have a bunch of chats that I need to catch up on, y'all. So take a moment. I'm going to grab a sip. Does anyone have a question about what low energy availability means? I'm just going to
I do. I mean, I've been studying a lot about insulin, right? And been doing the fasting, and like I can go out and do a really hard ride and then I don't eat after 4 o'clock and I'm fine. Like it's not a problem, right? So, but I eat really, really, really well during the day and I don't really care about my calories. But and so I think the question I have is, would you argue that I have low energy availability after my ride because I'm not eating? But if I feel okay, is that all right? Like I'm just trying to understand. Maybe I don't understand the definition
of low energy availability. The definition of that would be that you are not taking in enough calories, so enough energy to cover both your life processes and your workouts, and allow you to sleep and recover.
Okay.
So specifically, you may be taking in enough calories, all right? But there's other issues with intermittent fasting that we can talk about at the end that may or may not have, fall into low energy availability. Does that make sense? Yeah. And I can just touch on those at the end, which is
Okay.
And not to cut you off, Marissa, but I think also when we had a question about timing of calories and when to take certain things in. And again,
we'll get there.
Yeah. And I know you're going to get there, but I think also to answer Anne's question really quickly, like there is that window, that kind of like golden window after workouts.
Yeah.
Marissa's going to cover it, so I'm not going to steal
Yeah.
her thunder.
Don't steal the thunder. I got it.
But that's important. And I think
it's very important. That's why I was going to bring it up.
For muscle and glycogen replenishment.
Yeah. And stress.
Which doesn't necessarily work with some of the intermittent fasting things, but but we'll touch on that kind of window post workout where refueling is incredibly important. So
we'll get there.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, y'all. So the solution, pre-ride fueling, number 1, fueling mid-ride is number 2, and post-ride recovery fueling is number 3. So we really want to focus today on those 3 particular areas. There's a whole other, the rest of your life, right? The rest of your day around that's not around cycling or weightlifting, the rest of your day that is really important as well. And I'll touch on it. But specifically for today, we're really focused on and around your specific workouts. So we're going to talk about pre-ride fueling because before that, who am I? All right, there's me. I'm CEO of Action Fitness and Coaching. I've been a cycling coach and personal trainer for more than 10 years. I'm still a category 1 cyclist, and I was a Masters National Points Race champion in 2019, which was the last time there was a championship race. And I'm on a mission to help 1,000 women become badass cyclists. So most of what I do is teaching you how to work smarter and not harder by learning the best strategies to train, fuel, and rest, because you're working with your body and your hormones and not against them. So a lot of us realize that what got us to here isn't going to get us to there, right? Especially as we age and we have to deal with different hormonal structure in our body. So I want everyone to be able to stop riding slow and finally ride further and climb stronger. And again, I'm focused mainly on women over 40, but I do have a lot of athletes who are men and under 40. All right. So, but I want to hop back into pre-ride fueling. Pre-ride fueling achieves 3 things, right? Fuel, so you can have energy on your rides, you can hit all your targets, and you can have maximum like fun on your rides. It minimizes the muscle breakdown or catabolism that happens when we exercise, and especially after we're done exercising. So, and then thirdly, we feel damned good when we eat before we ride. So all of this drama around fasted riding, even though some people are really into it, I don't recommend it, especially for women, because all it really does is raise your stress level.
Yeah,
cortisol levels.
Cortisol. Yeah.
Cortisol levels. Yeah. It'd be really, let's go ahead and hold on comments to the end, if that's cool. Awesome. Cortisol levels are really important because they work in tandem with our insulin and help to pack on pounds. And that's really, really stressful, especially as you're trying to possibly lose pounds or perform better. The last thing is we avoid the wild energy and sugar swings. And that to me is the most important, because when you're out there trying to perform and you're bonking, you can't perform, right? All right. So those are the 3 like really important reasons for pre-ride fueling. So to get in the nitty gritty, I recommend 3 hours before. If you're not, okay, so let me step back. If you're doing an early morning ride, clearly omit number 1. Okay. So, but if you're doing a regular type ride, like a 9 or 10 a.m. start, you're going to ride and you're going to eat 3 hours before. Eat a normal meal. Include mainly some proteins and carbohydrates. Go easy on the fiber and fat. And that is specifically because you're going to go hard and you don't need that extra blood rushing to your gut trying to break down fat and fiber. We do want fiber later, and I'll talk about that in a moment. 1 hour before, grab an easy to digest, slower release carbohydrate. Specifically a banana with 1 tablespoon of nut butter would be awesome. And what that's going to do is help you, again, with the protein, a tiny bit of fat to help you stay satiated, but that slow release carbs is really going to help keep you sustained, especially through that first hour. Fun fact is that our first hour of training, you don't need to focus on eating because we do have an hour's worth of glycogen stored in our muscles and our liver. So right about that 1 hour mark, I ask all my clients, all my athletes, this is when you start timing your nutrition on the bike. And we'll talk about that in a moment. So the other things to consider, team, is, are you having a heavy day? Are you racing or training hard? Are you riding more than 4 or 5 hours? Are you having a moderate day where maybe a moderate or endurance ride of 2 to 4 hours? Or are you on a light or recovery day? Because one of those three things is going to change the way and what you eat. So really consider the timing and what your training is doing, okay? And know that a heavy day is going to be significantly more energy intake than a light or recovery day. So a light day would be like an hour or less. And I would include a moderate day would be like an hour of weightlifting, okay? Because you're using some serious muscles. Okay, so pre-ride fueling, I didn't really do a huge macro breakdown, but one great thing to think about, and this is where I said I am going to talk about calories because it's a great target. It's a way for you to think, how much do I really need to eat before? And a great target is looking at about your body weight and times it by 1 and then 1.3. So a little bit more, 30% more. And 1 hour before, and for a 125-pound woman, that's probably a banana with a tiny bit of nut butter, right? That would take us at about 125, 130, 150 calories. All right. And again, I focused on mainly carbohydrates with some protein. The thing is, however, if you're going out for a long day, you do want to up that protein about 20 grams before you're getting on the bike or the run or whatever you're doing, because your muscles need that energy, those BCAAs in your body to help avoid the breakdown of muscle during your effort. Okay. And then lastly, of course, is hydrate. And it's important to drink to thirst, but a good target is 16 to 20 ounces of water. If you're going into a session where it's going to be hot, consider adding electrolyte tablet, which I'll talk about a little bit in just a moment. But don't forget that all crucial hydration. And I from personal experience, even if you are a coffee drinker in the morning, you still got to drink some water, y'all. All right.
Preach on that one.
Yeah, right. So
also, this is all recorded, so you guys don't stress about doing the numbers. Like, I'm going to throw out some numbers too, but this is all going to get recorded and then also a recap. So just enjoy, listen.
Just enjoy. Yeah. And take notes if you want, but just don't stress. It'll be recorded. Awesome. The last thing is I wrote out some ideas for pre-ride fueling on the right. So my favorite is a nice sweet ass bowl of oatmeal with scrambled eggs, because I'm not a vegan, right? But there's plenty of vegan options out there where you can get the amount of protein that you need. Instead of scrambled eggs, try silken tofu with your oatmeal. Well, not in your oatmeal, but alongside your oatmeal, you could scramble some silken tofu. It's delicious. Almond milk with half a scoop of pea protein or hemp protein is great. Again, right before your ride. Fat-free unsweetened yogurt has a ton of protein relative to sugar, so that's another good option. My bad, sorry. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And then, of course, these fruits are always great. Again, banana with nut butter is just such an easy go-to. So the last thing I do say is people ask me about bread all the time. And you know what? And we'll talk about this in a second in depth, but when you're going to be riding or during your ride, the type of bread you want is the really easy to digest, AKA sugary bread, right? So white bread, not high fiber, not high protein bread, because that takes a lot of your gut to break down. So we want to be easy on the gut and quick energy. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and get right to it. After that, we have mid-ride. So as I said, about an hour in is when you really start that clock of mid-ride fueling. And my third, remember, I think it's third. No, it's the fourth kind of thing about fueling is we want to avoid those sugar swings. So mid-ride fueling on a schedule, especially if you're not used to mid-ride fueling, put a timer beeper on your Garmin, and that every 30 minutes, have it go off. And that is a trigger to remind you to have a snack, whether it's a bite of a sandwich and some water, or, whatever your snack is. But that way you're eating on a schedule to help keep your blood sugar level. So it never goes high and it never goes low. All right. So that is my biggest takeaway. And I started doing that with my Ironman training until it became second nature. And I would actually get hungry in intervals of every half an hour.
I also did that with triathlon. That was like my half Ironman distance. Like if you don't figure that stuff out for endurance racing, I've definitely done horribly at races because of not.
It's and it ends up being a big waste of resources because you didn't eat right.
Yep.
And it's hard. It's a really hard pill to swallow. So your mid-ride hydration I'll start with is key. And again, aiming for that 16 to 20 ounces, more if it's hot. And the winning combination here is reading labels, right? If you're somebody who likes to buy their hydration, read the labels. We really want to focus on relatively low sugar. So it's only 7 to 9 grams. If you look at like a Gatorade, it's easily like 3 or 4 times that. And you really want to focus on sucrose and glucose and away from fructose, because fructose has been highly associated with GI distress. All right. The next is sodium. So on average, 200 milligrams is what we're looking at. Again, this is for 8 ounces. So you would double this if you're using a 16 ounce, 16 ounce water bottle. And then potassium, 60 to 75 milligrams. So again, those electrolytes. And at the bottom, I listed a few really obvious brands we have everywhere. Sports Basement carries these. You can buy them on Amazon. But Osmo has a great option. Guru tablets are awesome. Cliff Shots are awesome. Scratch Labs makes a few. And then Noon Hydration has stepped up as well. So these are just a couple great options. Then, however, I also really love making my own. And I will send everybody in a special. Actually, what I'll do is give it to Dara and she'll put it in the email for tomorrow.
I have a few. Awesome.
Yeah.
I have a few that I'll add too. So that's perfect.
Yeah. So it's my own and it's practically free, right? I don't have to pay for it. I mean, I have to buy the stuff, but it's free. So anyhow, you don't have to get a big fancy, especially staying away from those crazy colors. The last thing I'll say about hydration is if you're going to use a electrolyte hydration, make sure you practice it before your big long rides or your big long races, right? Because you don't want to, like Dara said, have an incident in the middle of a race and then your whole day is ruined. So make sure and practice your nutrition. All right, next up, food in your pockets, right? So we do want to keep food and calories in our pockets and try to just keep the hydration in our bottles. I have a lot of people coming at me with, but, hammer nutrition, but. And you know what, if it works for you, I'm not going to be here to say, fix it if it's not broken. But I do want to challenge you to try to start eating real food, because that's what your body likes to break down. Again, so I'm coming at you with aiming for 1.3 kilocalories or calories per pound that you weigh. All right. So if I weigh 150 pounds, I'm going to aim for about 150 to 200 calories in an hour. All right. Now, Marissa, why don't you tell me exactly how many carbs and protein that should be? Because that's so much work. Okay. That is so much mental energy that you're going to waste on exactly how many grams of carbs and exactly how many grams of protein. So if you have, I'm just going to use what I do as an example. 2 slices of white bread, so it's about 120 calories each. And then I add some cream cheese, and then I add some jam, and then I cut it in quarters, and that's almost exactly about 150 calories. So problem solved. I cut it in quarters. I eat 1 quarter every 30 minutes. Boom. All right. Eating real food that your body recognizes, it really helps your body break that stuff down. 40 to 50 grams of carbs is about what people recommend on every literature you look at. Some men have been shown to actually be able to uptake almost up to 80 carbs in an hour. Great, but I would stick to what the literature really talks about, which is 40 to 50 grams an hour. And it becomes even more important when you go up and over that 3, 4, 5 hour mark, right? You're doing ultra long distance things. You really need to focus on getting those carbs in. Couple examples, salted potatoes. You can make them in the microwave. I have done that so many times in the Central Valley in the races. Like I'll take the potatoes, wrap them in paper towels, and then salt them when they're done, put it in a little plastic baggie and eat it. Cheese and jam sandwiches on white bread. That's what I just was explaining. Pretzel bites are easy. Swedish fish, gummy bears, or jelly beans. Just make sure that it doesn't have fructose or high fructose corn syrup. It's actually more like sucrose or cane sugar, specific sugars. But those are really good if you're focused on high intensity intervals, right? Racing. You are racing in a road race and you've gone crazy balls to the wall, or a mountain bike ride, and now you have a moment to take a break, you better be putting sugar back in your face, right? So Swedish fish, gummy bears, jelly beans are just the very beginning of like just simple sugar. One thing I didn't put on here that I actually have experimented with and loved was a maple syrup, kind of watered down with a little bit of water and some salt added to it, putting it in a goo flask. So it's almost like your own goo. So again, real food and staying away from those complex, I would say engineered sugars. stick to real food and you'll experiment with it and you might be pleasantly surprised. The other thing that all my clients are like, oh my gosh, Swedish fish is so cheap compared to goo. So, all right, y'all, food in your pockets. Apparently I have this twice. All right. Other things I put in here are homemade bars, of which we have plenty of recipes. So I'm happy to share those as well. One that surprised me, but I'm totally getting behind is turkey jerky for your low intensity ride. So if you're going on a long ride on your salty sweater like me, I don't want sweet stuff anymore. I'm going to take on salty things like jerky. And it's actually not a terrible thing. Yes, it's not full of carbs, but you could have a bite of jerky and then have a half a homemade bar. And that would give you that little bit of protein and sugar. But again, remember, turkey jerky is only for something like a low intensity long ride. It's not for a race. It's not for a short ride. Okay. Awesome. Hey, are there any questions I can hop in here? Dara, have you seen any questions in the
Sorry, I muted you.
Okay, I'm here.
We had a couple questions. I have a couple things that I was going to add in. We had a question about, are goos bad? Stacy Sims said they're bad. I don't really remember what she was saying. I think it was maybe fructose related or just how the GI distress.
Yeah, it's
GI. We had a question about we had a question also about for cross country racing and just getting some like nausea but like during racing.
Yeah.
And I also wrote down it could also just be the timing of it, like not early enough, or just playing around with. Some things don't work pre-race for some people. Acidity, I know bananas can make people barf up, you know, and a lot of it has to do with just the amount of absorption and time you're giving yourself. But if you want to answer either of those questions.
Yeah, with the gels, yes. So staying away from gels is why I focused on sugar, and it's specifically because of the type of sugar they put in there are linked to some people with really bad GI. And I will cover one more thing very shortly, and has to do with gut microbiota. So when you stuff your face with gels, it kind of isn't so good. Yes. But that being said, if you're in the last like hour of a road race and you are desperate for carbs and that's all you've got, eat it. You know what I mean? It's not going to kill you. It's just that you want to focus on relying more on real food and simple sugars and not engineered sugars. Yeah. The nausea thing, I've heard that as well. And the one thing I will say is that we need to practice that nutrition. So right, only during races, but do you eat the same thing before the race as before the workout? Is it at the same time? And that being said, so I guess number one, I would say train for that time, right? You have to practice because your body isn't always going to just show up and do the right thing when you want it to. If you've trained and it was fine in practice, but then you get to race day and you still got it. That's a function of your nervous system really just rejecting the calories. So I would say experiment. If you're still finding that nausea, talk to somebody maybe about kind of putting together a specific, very gentle program for you. If bananas are too acidic, maybe, I'm just thinking some of the other things that have helped are very like easy on the stomach, like Greek yogurt. But of course, if you don't eat dairy, that won't work for you either. So that's my biggest recommendation is practice. And if you're still like practicing is fine and racing is not, then it's time to switch gears. So that has happened. But a lot of that is, I have a funny story about that when I was a kid, but a lot of that is also your nervous system kind of being overreactive. Yeah. And there's things you can do to help calm that in terms of like deep breathing or breath work, and practicing that as well before your actual event.
Yeah. I mean, just a couple of quick little things that, and then you can finish up with your slides. Just to reiterate. So my little very generalized like notes is, approximately for all of us, we're thinking around 150 to 300 calories per hour. Right, is what we're trying to take in when we're working out. So if you're working out for less than an hour, if your race is less than an hour, you might have a goo before your start. That might be it, right? Yeah. If you're doing it, like there's glycogen, so your body is holding on to a bunch of this fuel and it's ready to like blast it out. So if your workout, even if it's high intensity, it's a very short race, none of this really applies, right? You need to do all the pre-ride stuff that she said. You need to get your head on straight and hydrate the day before and the night before and all that stuff. And then figure all that stuff in so that when it's go time. And then don't worry about this. And then you eat a ton afterwards, right? To replenish if you're doing more than an hour, then you want to start thinking about numbers, and just treat it like all you would all your other training. If you want to nerd out and really get down to some very specific numbers about what is your power output, what is your intensity level, how much do you weigh. From there, you could get incredibly specific with how many calories you need to be taking in and what percentage of muscle glycogen versus fat are you burning for your workouts, right? So that's the other thing, is that your body is primarily going to burn carbohydrate at a very high intensity. So if you're doing a very hard workout, it's carbs. That's why we're like, yo, you need carbs. Like I freaking love carbs because they fuel your brain, they fuel your body, right? Protein is great, much harder to use for energy. Fat is also great for very low intensity work. So when we're talking to all you racer people, it's great to be able to use fat and adapt your body to use that. But at the end of the day, you are on the struggle bus if you're not doing the carbs, right? It's just making life so much more complicated. So understanding those numbers, and then from there figuring out, okay, I need 150 to 300 calories per hour approximately. And then you can get way more specific with it. You can talk to a nutritionist, registered dietitian, Marissa, somebody else. And then from there, figuring out what works for your body. Like I'm vegan, I don't eat eggs, but I could do something else. I can do those portables with rice, and then I can put other things. I could do the PB&J. Like there's a million options for people who you want your bacon portable, do your bacon portable. You want your whatever thing, you do your whatever thing. So we'll give you a bunch of like little recipes, and I think Marissa's going to do that next. But really it's understanding like where your calories are, and then also what's your deficit. So my last little thing is like, if there's a deficit between the calories that you're burning and the calories that you're eat, like you need to figure that out, and that's going to help you figure out how many calories you need. And if you're in a deficit, you need to eat, right?
Yeah.
So it's really just getting the numbers down.
100%.
That's about it. Okay, back to you.
Okay, yeah. So let's leave on that deficit situation. So we've done a ride or a race or an event, and your Garmin or whatever computer you have can tell you how many calories approximately that you've burned, either through your heart rate monitor or your power meter. And then you take that knowledge and you think back of how many calories did I eat while I was riding, and you kind of because you made all that ride food and you got it all ready. And so the delta there is definitely something to take into consideration. Now, do you want to sit down and eat 2,000 calories right away? Probably not, right? Your gut is going to be a little overloaded, a little bit tired, but we do need to take into consideration if there's a 2,000 calorie delta, plus you still should eat regular dinner, right? That's not even counting the other calories that your life processes need to sustain life. Then again, so we're focused on post-ride recovery meals. So again, I'm going to kind of get a little generic because as Dara and I have said over and over, everybody is different, right? Some of us have anxiety before we race and then we can't eat, and that leads to low energy. So everybody is different for recovery as well. I do want to point out there are sex differences between how men recover and how women recover, and that has primarily to do with our sex hormones, and estrogen really affects everything from the way we break down food to the way that we rebuild muscle, and same goes for testosterone. So I'm going to try to cover all of the differences today, but I really want to, if you leave in with one thing today, it is that you have 30 minutes after your workout or race or ride to get that protein in. All right. Everyone's like, oh, glycogen window. I'm like, I think they should call it the protein window, because you can, of course, eat carbs for sure, but studies keep turning up showing that you can eat carbs and refuel those within 2 hours and not be negatively affected. But protein,
it should just be the burrito window.
Yep.
If it was
exactly.
the burrito window, then
I love it.
Carbs and your
yeah.
Right? Okay, whatever.
Yeah. So but yeah, especially for women, we want to refuel with at least 25 to 40 grams of protein. So if you're thinking about a protein shake, that's 2 scoops of protein, right? within 30 minutes of your finish. So that's not cool down, get in the car and drive home. That's get off your bike, get your protein shake, and then go ride, right? So that is immediate, because when you miss that window, you have now essentially shut the door on rebuilding your muscle quickly. And again, I'm talking to women right now, men, it's a little different, but, and then in addition, you're cutting off like an additional 4 hours of lean mass regeneration. But not only that, you're also increasing cortisol, which, as we all know, is catabolic. It breaks down muscle, and it increases the stress and what am I trying to say? Increasing cortisol, increasing breakdown of muscle, and you're essentially just doing yourself no favor. So you went out, you worked hard, you trained hard, you raced hard, and now you're breaking down your body. So tomorrow, right? We think about eating for tomorrow, eating for our next workout, and you're already at a disadvantage because your body's breaking down protein, breaking down muscle. But you can stop all of that by just eating within 30 minutes of your protein, of your window, okay? And I do want to point out, if you're eating soy or rice protein, just up that protein a little bit more and consider supplementing with a BCAA or branch chain amino acid. You can get them online, you can get them at Sprouts, you can get them at Whole Foods, but they are a leucine protein, and that is essentially the building block of your muscle protein synthesis. So focus on leucine. Tons of animal protein have it, but also lots and lots. So we got soy, lentils, chickpeas, almonds, seeds. Again, seeds. What was the addition to seeds? I already said lentils. So it's not just animal protein. And I think that gets a bad rap. We're like leucine, and everybody thinks whey protein. Whey protein's fine, but if you're vegan, that doesn't mean you can't get enough leucine in your body. Just, you got to focus on it. So
yeah, I would suggest for any plant-based like athlete like myself, like you want to check your protein powder, because if it's just soy, and you may not be getting the leucine, and leucine is really important. So
the most important, for sure.
So just double check whatever protein powder you are using, whether you're plant-based athlete or not, whatever. Yeah, check that.
That's perfect. And then I was saying, you can one of my favorite things to do when I am finished and I'm at a deli is just a big old chocolate milk, and I bring a 1/4 cup of almonds, because almonds have a ton of leucine. So chocolate milk plus the almonds gets me to where I need to be. So it can be as simple as that, right? It doesn't need to be elaborate. I did want to take a half second and talk about why your gut matters. And that is because we have all these tiny little bugs in our gut. All right. I just imagine like bacteria growth. Yay. But then you go and work out really hard. And so your body heat raises. And guess what happens? You kill off a ton of the bacteria that are in your gut. So now imagine if all you did was rehydrate and eat engineered sugar, bars, right? You're not eating real food. Well, the bacteria that grow on that stuff is going to essentially be one type of bacteria. So you're no longer having a healthy gut, and you're really skewing towards these sugar and engineered based bacteria. So I want to focus and just tell you that you're eating to keep this garden alive inside of you. And it matters because you have a brain gut axis. And it matters in that we have energy going from our gut to our brain and back. We've got immune system really affected by the gut. And your sense of well-being, specifically anxiety and depression, has been really linked with specific gut biomatter. And unfortunately, that biomatter is really attracted to sugar. So if there's ever a reason to get off sugar, it's that. But take in the colors of the rainbow. So I want to say, eat all the sugar you want, as long as it's real food. But then as you're coming back into real life, eat the colors of the rainbow, eat the red peppers, eat the orange sweet potatoes, eat the whatever's yellow, I don't know, zucchini, right? But just go through the rainbow and pick one of each color and put it in your bowl. It doesn't have to be a ton, a handful is plenty, but get it in there so you start regrowing that gut microbiota, okay? I also put in there, it's onions, artichokes, garlics, leeks, asparagus, even oatmeal. They all help grow the healthy gut, okay? So that was the end of my gut, but it's, again, you're feeding a garden, so don't feed it engineered sugar. All right, I'm gonna swoop right into the carbs. So restock your carbs within 2 hours. Doesn't need to be right within 30 minutes. It can be up to 2 hours, as long as you're eating, you're not starving yourself. So again, eat the rainbow. We want starchy veggies. They're full of great carbohydrates, nutrients, and minerals. Things like potatoes. I wrote other tubers. Root veggies like parsnips and beets are also really great. Consider smoothies with protein powder, but also things like frozen banana or mango. And you could add Greek yogurt if you eat yogurt. Almond milk is great. Kefir is great because it also has that probiotics plus the casein protein in it. So again, eat the rainbow of fruit flavor colors. And then lastly, I threw out a few meal ideas, and these are not like like 10 ingredient things. It's like make a sandwich with some I would recommend now that you're done working out, with some higher protein bread, something like Ezekiel bread, or even maybe gluten-free bread, or I love the Trader Joe's sprouted wheat breads, okay? But they all have good protein. Add some lean protein, whether it's tempeh or tofu. I love the Trader Joe's, whatever, it's all flavored tofu. I eat that shit straight from the package. I love it.
Oh, I love that stuff too.
Yeah. Smear some cheese on there, but if you don't eat cheese, go with hummus, go with avocado. All of these are super simple, okay? You don't need to overthink it. And those, like if you do tofu, you can stick that together and put it in your car. You don't have to really keep it cold. Tempeh and sweet potatoes is another great option. Grilled chicken and sweet potato with green salad. Put it in a bowl and eat it up. And my favorite is the burrito bowl, because you can riff on that every way you want to. So pick a rice or a grain. I love quinoa because it also has protein. You've got a wide array of starchy veggies you could throw in there. And I want to put in a plug for women over 40. Focus on getting those cruciferous vegetables in there. So things like broccoli or kale or cabbage or what do you call it? Brussels sprouts, because they're known to fight cancer once we're past menopause. So don't not eat those, okay? But other great things, legumes like beans, chickpeas, those have great protein and carbs in them. Okay, so it doesn't have to be all just chicken and pork and beef, right? You've got so many options. All right, so that is where you want to get into that 2 hours. So I'll tell you what I do at a stage race. I take this stuff with me in my cooler. I finish the race. I get off the bike, I get my regular clothes on, and then I go straight to that cooler in my Tupperware, and I'm eating it in the car, right? So that I can fuel for the next race. So treat your days like that, right? If you're working out at night, get right off the bike, go straight to the kitchen, make your burrito bowl. And the great thing about these, y'all, you can make these 5 at a time, right? You can just grab it out of the kitchen and go. Meal prep is your friend. So lastly, I just wanted to tell you about nutrient timing. Again, protein, I think, is the most time dependent in that 30-minute window, especially for women, but men too. Strive for that 20 to 40 grams of protein. Supplement with BCAAs if you can, or if you need to, especially if we're plant-based, because that'll just help you better. And then time your simple carbs. I always think that people think, oh, I'm good at performance nutrition. All I'm going to eat is salad and protein. But I'm going to say, no, I want you to eat your carbs, but I want you to eat them, your fun carbs, I call them. So, right, like your cookies, your pastries, all that stuff. But eat them right before, right during, or right after your fun rides, right? In a race, I'm not going to eat a pastry, but my fun rides, I'm going to totally eat a pastry. So consider, however, also complex carbohydrates after your ride. So I'm saying you're done with your ride, your recovery, or this is the rest of your day, right? So consider getting your carbohydrates from those complex sources. And complex just means they're not simple. They don't break down fast. So again, chickpeas and lentils, whole grains, starchy veggies and root veggies. These can serve as the basis of your carbohydrates day-to-day fueling. And that what's great about that is that, again, I have people like, oh, I want to lose 5 pounds and get to racing. Or they're like, oh, I was told I need to go low carb, not because they have diabetes, but they're following a fad diet or something. I'm going to come back and say, I want you to focus on fruits and veggies. If you don't want to eat grains, that's fine, but please stick to those, like potatoes, sweet potatoes, peas, corn, parsnips, beets, the colors of the rainbow, okay? Because you get plenty of carbohydrates through those veggies. All right, so I'm going to finish up with, we had protein, we had carbs. I didn't talk a ton about fat. You know why? Well, we're not eating it right before, during, and after our rides. You're going to eat that in the rest of your day. So if you have specific fats questions, I want to say overall, I recommend you focus on plant fats. So like olive oils, flaxseed oils, avocados, nuts and seeds. and really, don't focus as much on animal fats. So that was my Q&A time. Dara, do you have more to add?
If anybody has questions, add them in the chat box now. I'm going to go over a couple last little things. That was fabulous, amazing. I love it. One thing that I like to focus on with health coaching in particular is the idea of kind of crowding out, is what we call it. And it's the idea of, if you want to eat the donut, eat the donut. I have a vegan donut on a ride. If I'm riding a long time, I love it. And it's not the idea of, depriving ourselves of things we like. It's the idea of bringing in other things that are also super tasty and healthy.
Yeah.
And if you have an issue, you're like, oh, like I really want to just stop eating all this junky stuff. You crowd it out, right? Bring in some other really tasty, yummy stuff. And once your body gets used to eating other stuff, like real foods that are just like super tasty, there will be less of that craving for that thing that you think you can't have.
And you have your gut to thank you for that. Because
exactly.
you're growing a good gut bacteria.
The microbiome will no longer be wanting you to eat the
sugar
every single day.
Or the beer or the pizza or whatever it is.
So just the idea that kind of crowding out the bad stuff by just bringing in more good stuff, tasty, healthy stuff. You'd be surprised. Healthy stuff tastes freaking good, right?
Oh yeah.
I think people are like, oh my God, what do you just eat twigs all day? And I'm like,
I know,
no, man.
No, I eat really good food. I want to answer Brooke's question real fast. Is that
cool? What's Brooke's question? Go for it.
Brooke's question says, why do you recommend non-fat yogurt rather than whole milk? So Brooke, basically just look at the label. And honestly, I recommend it because it has more protein in like a half a cup. Seriously. So I don't have to eat quite as much to get the protein hit. Does that make sense? You can totally eat the plain yogurt. Absolutely. It does have a little more fat, so it's going to up your fat profile. And if you were trying to have yogurt maybe like right before a workout, it may not feel so good in your stomach with the extra fat. This is my only thing. I am all about full fat stuff. So yes, but I just think that thinking about the timing of when you're eating that yogurt could be an issue. And then secondly, just there's more protein per half cup.
A couple of other things, as people are asking questions. What was I going to say? Oh, people who are gluten-free. Quinoa is great. Like you can make a little quinoa and you can make oatmeal.
I'm obsessed with oatmeal as quinoa.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed.
So quinoa is your friend. There's so many gluten-free options. Another thing that I'll post in the recap, like some of the books that I like love to. So this is one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, I have that one.
Cookbook. I'm sure people have heard of it. So it's Alan Lim. He did Scratch Labs guy.
Yeah.
So that's one. Yep. There are so many recipes in here for like pre, during, post. It'll tell you how many calories in the food. It'll tell you like here's an almond and date rice cakes thing, and it'll tell you all the calories, all the fat, all the when you should eat it, pre, post, during. So I suggest this book. I bought it. I think it's a great investment. Another one I like is
the best. I love it.
If you're looking for like snacky things, the Portables book is also a nice one. I'm like, I don't get anything from Alan Lim, should pay me for this. But I'm like,
I know, right?
It's a good one. I mean, honestly, it's just good stuff. So it teaches you how to make what he calls the portables. And it's like those little pre, during, and post little rice cake balls, right? You could put them with, I've had people make them with bacon. I put them with dates. Like you can make any sort of combination. I have one more book that I'm going to add the notes to, and it's this random book someone gave me. It's called Power Hungry, and it's like how to make your own bars.
Ooh, I love it.
And it's like, you don't have to trust me, I can't cook at all, but it's got like all their versions of every bar you could, like a Luna bar, a Cliff bar, like they just tell you how to make it yourself. And even how to make a goo and a shop lock yourself. So things like that, like, honestly, I don't like to like stress myself out by like meal prepping my life away. Like I want food to be super fun, but like, this is kind of fun stuff sometimes. Like maybe not all the time, but honestly, like I think if you can make the food part kind of fun, then, and you're like, oh, that's actually really, like I made that, it's healthy. Like then it's like super cool. So yeah, that's all I had to say is just like enjoy your food and like find like some people's gut. Some people don't do well with this. Maybe try this. I had someone else I was riding with just this weekend who doesn't do well with a lot of sugar, and so his registered dietitian he was seeing suggested brown rice tortilla.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. So that is a super easy thing you could eat during a ride literally this dude's like chewing on a brown rice tortilla, to get some carbs, right? Because he was like feeling barfy. So I'm like, there's a lot of things out there. You just need to kind of test them out and need to be talk to somebody about it. Right?
Yeah, registered dietitian can definitely help.
Yeah.
I worked with one, like a personal trainer. She was my registered dietitian. And yes, that's exactly what I did, was a sprouted wheat tortillas from Trader Joe's and peanut butter and honey. So those were my snacks for riding.
PB&J.
I had another question from clarifying no fiber recommending clarifying no fiber right before eating. I'm confused. Eating no fiber before riding. Is that the question? I don't know.
Not doing heavy fiber just in terms of like GI, like there was a question. Should you do fiber before a ride?
Oh, got it. So basically, no.
It's
basically no.
Yeah,
because I mean, again, everybody's different. So I'm going to state that at the top. Everybody's different. But for the most part, we are going to say find things that are easy to digest, right? So if you're going to go out and ride a hard ride or a big ride, maybe stay away from the nuts in your oatmeal, that day, and focus maybe on nut butter, which is a little easier to digest. But I mean, there's still a little bit of fat in there. I just recommend that you want to make your gut as easy and slippery slidey as possible for the time that you're going to be doing the workout. Afterwards, fiber it up. Fiber is your friend.
Yeah, if all the blood is going to your muscles to work and power you, your stomach, there's no blood there. There's nothing going there, so things are not going to be absorbed well. And if I've had it happen to me, it's not pleasant. But yeah, your stomach will not work right? So you want to eat things that you've practiced and are absorbed well and quickly too. So that's why we keep going back to the idea of carbs and getting simple with some of the food that you take in, because if it's very complex, like a fiber, your body's working on your legs and your arms, right? It's not going to work on your gut. So you just want to make it very simple. This is we're talking like during and pre race ride, whatever. We had another.
Elliot had a good question about feeling hungry. So Elliot, I don't know when this is happening to you. Are you feeling hungry at night?
Elliot is also very young and very strong and very fast.
Awesome.
But he's young.
Oh, there you go. He's got a high metabolism. So I am going to guess, Elliot, that also for most people, when they are feeling constantly starving, they're not eating quite enough. And even though you think you are, right, and your dietitian has said that, your hunger cues will tell you. So number one, consider focusing on upping your protein another notch, right? Typically, people are starving, especially for carbohydrates, especially for sugars, when they're undernourished when it comes to protein. Because your body is like, I'm exhausted and I'm starving. So feed me the fast food, feed me the chips, feed me the sugar. I want to go. But I want to also caution you on sleep. What? Sleep has nothing to do with eating. But au contraire, my friend, when you are tired, and this goes for every human, when you're tired, you actually mess with your hunger hormones. And ghrelin and leptin are the two hormones I'm talking about. When you are underslept, and for most of us, that's under 8 hours, but maybe for, again, a 19-year-old, you might be even needing more. When you're underslept, your body thinks that you're exhausted and it needs more sugar and salt and fat. So again, consider your sleeping. If you're sleeping regularly less than 8 hours a night, then that could be a serious culprit.
I would also say, and this is something that I'll do in physical therapy for patients, but I do this with the clients and other people as well. Write this stuff down, right?
Yep.
So if you're not sure, like write down what you ate. Like don't get crazy about it, but like if you take like a journal for 3 days and write down everything, like you might find that you're just not eating enough.
Yeah.
Or not sleeping enough, like Marissa said. Yeah. And sometimes you can do that sleuthing on your own. And I'll tell my patients, I'll say, hey, I want you to write down what you did and how you felt. Then you can figure it out. Right? Yep. Like you be your own, like you fix yourself. We're helping you, but ultimately we're giving you that information to fix your own stuff. And if you write it down, you will probably see some patterns, like you aren't eating enough dinner, or you're not eating enough after your ride, like Marissa said, in that window. Yeah. Or you've increased how hard you're exercising. The harder you exercise, you are putting in way more calories during and after to rebuild. So if you are now getting way faster and you're still eating the same amount of your burrito, like you might need 2 burritos, especially if you're a boy growing fast, racing, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's just
100%.
reality. So, I know for one thing, like if I don't eat enough, I'm like hangry, like I need to eat a lot. Otherwise things just start to feel horrible. So yeah, eat more sometimes, but just journal.
So I have time for one more question and then maybe we could wrap it up. I saw a couple, there was pre-hydration question and something about sweating. So
yeah, finish up with hydration. I think we should finish up with hydration.
Yeah, awesome. So hydration matters on whether you're a man or a woman, what event you're going to do and how the conditions. Is it hot? Is it not? Is it humid? So finding out all of those information before you decide. So, but right now in Northern California, we're starting to go into the warmer season and most humans take some time to acclimate to heat. And so in order to do that, we really do need to focus on hydrating. If there's a question about pre-hydration, I love pre-hydration when you're going into a hot event, no matter what. Pre-hydration, there are specific, like, what do I call it? Like Noon and Osmo, they have specific pre-hydration drinks that you can purchase, like the powder. It's basically 3 different types of salt, right? It's baking soda and table salt and one other type. Citrus chloride, citric chloride, something like that. I can't remember the name of it, but it's the third one. It has citric acid in it. So the 3 types that will essentially act as hyperhydration, and it's going to help you boost your blood plasma, right? So you're going to have more plasma, more water in your blood, and it will delay the dehydration symptoms for you in the beginning of your ride or race or whatever. So you all know the symptoms of dehydration, right? You feel terrible. You start making bad decisions. You feel tired. You feel like giving up. That is all hydration. We all think it's nutrition, but it's really hydration. So if you can bump up the plasma levels before you get started on a hot day, go for it. And so hyperhydration is super great for that. The other thing was about salty sweating. Essentially, there's a lot of data out there that is conflicting, is what I've come to decide. So this goes into every single person is different. What I personally ascribe to is if you are a salty sweater, how do you know? You have salt stains on your kit after a hot ride. You're got salt stains on your helmet after almost every ride. You have animals who come straight up and lick you when you get home. That's all signs that you're excreting more salt than like an average person. So some people say you don't need to add more salt, just add salt to your food. But in my personal experience, just adding salt to my food is not sufficient. I actually need to add more electrolytes to my drinks because I'm a salty sweater, which just means that when I sweat, I don't hold on to as much salt as an average human. And I heard a really great podcast about this actually with Alan Lim of Scratch. And he was talking all about salty sweating and using the cystic fibrosis test to decide how salty you are. So you could go deep down into a crazy internet rabbit hole of salt and sweat, but take these 3 ideas, right? Do your animals lick you? Do you see salt stains? Do you feel depleted? Oh, the 4th one, when you get home, do you want to consume a bag of chips, like salty chips? Or would you rather have something, more sweet, right? Are you big savory or are you more sweet? Because the people who are salty sweaters craving that salt, you're going to go straight to that bag of chips and like start devouring it. So that's, again, another idea of like, I'm a pretty salty sweater. So at that point, I recommend you experiment. So for me, I added 2 Noon tablets to one of my bottles. And then I continued on a hard ride, and wouldn't you know it, I was actually faster and I had less possibilities of cramping. Still had tons of salt, but I felt better. So I went ahead and used that as my new baseline. But for you, you may not be a salty sweater, and 2 of those tablets is way too much. So I encourage you, if you're not sure, start paying attention to when you're coming home from rides. How do you feel? What do you want? Do your animals notice that you're salty? Do you see salt on your kit? And then start experimenting from there. That's it.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So I think what we'll do is we're gonna end it here since we've gone on a little bit. I would say we had a question about headaches. I didn't see the whole thing, but there's definitely dehydration is real, right?
Yep.
Not hydrating enough. I've had many a headache from being dehydrated, among other things, and not taking enough electrolytes.
Too much sun can cause that. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many variables for all that stuff. If you guys have more questions, Marissa's email is below. Mine, darasportspt@gmail.com or dara@darasportspt.com. There's a lot of info. You're going to get a big fat email. If you don't see it, look in your spam folder. It might go to spam. So just double check that. If anybody else wants it, send it to them. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming. Thank you, Marissa.
Thank you.
So I love learning all this stuff. I could just listen to this over and over and over. I always forget and then remember how many calories and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, thank you guys for coming. And if you have more questions, reach out to either of us.
You got it.
I think that's a wrap.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for coming.
Yeah.
See you later.
Cheers.
Cheers.